Good afternoon and welcome. My name's Gareth Everson. I'm the founder of Soloprenyear and also of Lemonade Plan. And welcome to welcome to my first LinkedIn Live, where I'm here to answer your questions about small business sales and marketing. There might be some glitches in this, but I'm hoping that I've got everything in place in order to answer your questions today and also present some insights and takes on what's going on in the world of small business sales and marketing. So welcome. If you've got questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. I'll also put in there a link to join me live on the live stream if you want to come and say hi. Link to join me, David Chapman. Hello, welcome, long time no speak. Weird, I'm talking to myself just now. I'm excellent, Dave. How are you? I feel like I'm having this delayed interaction. I think there's a delay of about 10 seconds on the live stream. Hi, Nigel. Welcome. Pro at this. You'll be seeing all of my mistakes firsthand. Look, I'm a tech and systems person, but I generally speaking do things first time and deal with any consequences off the back of it. Nigel, Dave, have you got any questions that you'd like me to answer? Or shall I do a little bit on a piece that I prepared? Let's do this. I will share my screen. Do this first of all. So I'm all about helping small businesses with their processes and specific systems that they have in order to manage those processes in their business. And it's what I've done for the last 12 years. Absolutely love it. The reason I'm doing live streams is to basically help more people than I can do one-to-one. It's a bit of an experiment to do that. I'd like to do more helping of small businesses where they're at, specifically those businesses that are working on their own stuff, either can't afford to hire outsourced help or have had poor experiences in the past and don't want to do that much more. So my whole model, especially this year with launching Soloprenyear, is all about trying to pass along as much of my knowledge and insights about process management and about systems management and about scaling your marketing activities that lead into good quality sales conversations, and share that as wide and as far as I can do, but teach you to do it instead of you hiring me to manage your activities. I'd like to teach you to do it. Let's start first of all with what I mean by those processes and systems, if that's okay. Hi, Rachel. I can see that you've joined. So when we talk about processes and systems is one of my big bugbears. The software industry is so geared up to having you think that systems are a piece of software, and that's not actually true. Systems is a grouping of processes. Software can be used to manage those processes and systems, but ultimately they're just tools. And there are three core systems in your sales and marketing. And if you can see that on your screens just now, in fact, just let me know if you can see this on your screens. The three systems are the attraction, how you onboard your clients, and then how you delight them. And my model, my methodology is, just to be playful with it, is to call it lemonade, to call the processes lemonade, to help you think about how you can manage those 8 key processes in your business that manage those 3 systems. And what I'd say about these processes is if you can easily tell if you're getting any of these wrong, because at the end of them, the endorsements stage, if you're not getting one of 3 things from your client relationships, one of the 3 R's that are repeat sales, referrals, or positive reviews, then something is broken along the way. Something is broken in those systems somewhere along the way. You're losing your clients somewhere down the chain. So let's go through those 8 just really quickly. Leads should be quite an obvious one. It's how you identify, how you go and find, how you capture, and how you generate that interest in what you do. That's leads. It's all of those activities until somebody raises their hand and comes into your world. That's what we're talking about the leads processes. Then, generally speaking, unless somebody's ready to buy right there and then, you need to have some sort of education process for those leads. And the reason I say that unless somebody's ready to buy right there and then, that's actually the majority. The majority of people aren't ready straight away to buy. In fact, there's research online that generally speaking, it's only about 2 to 3% of people who discover you are ready to buy straight away if you're running like a service business. So we need to think about some sort of education process that talks to that lead or a prospect as we become at that stage about how they can solve their problems. And perhaps then once they understand what their problems are and ways that they can solve them, how they can address what those problems are in their business. And specifically, if we can guide them to thinking of you as a help to be able to solve those problems, even better. So that's the education phase. That can be done in all sorts of different ways. The most common routes these days are using email or live sessions or online webinars, or direct mail is still often used in this nurturing process, but it's fundamentally around probably email and video and social content. That's the education piece. What we're trying to move them towards is them booking some sort of appointment with you. And we call that a meeting, right? So whether it's a face-to-face meeting or an online group meeting or you going and visiting them, we're looking to move them through to the stage of booking a meeting with you. One of the big problems that I see people make, especially in a small service business setting, is they're trying to invite people too soon in that discovery or that buying journey to a meeting. And it's wasting both of your time. 1, because they're probably not ready to buy yet. 2, because if you're working for yourself and it's only really you in the business, your time could be spent in much more valuable ways than sitting in meetings that are not necessarily going anywhere. If somebody's not at that stage of the funnel, I talk about it on the podcast, the tofu, mofu, bofu, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. If you're assuming that people that book a meeting with you, when that's the first thing that you put in front of them, if you're assuming that they're ready to buy, you're probably making a big mistake. I'm actually seeing more people since the cost of living crisis and the kind of economic pressures that the country's facing at the minute. I'm actually seeing more people be too aggressive at asking for meetings with their leads. And if anything, if you take nothing else away from this particular session, try and think of how you can actually slow down that process to educate your leads better rather than asking for meetings in the first place. I'm seeing so many businesses at the moment who are frustrated that their leads aren't converting into sales. And by and large, it's because we're treating them as being further along through that funnel than they perhaps are. So slow down that process, think more in terms of education before you give away your time and ask them to give away their time in booking a meeting with you. So that's all part of the attraction phase: leads, education, and meetings. When you've got somebody who is in a position to actually be ready to have that sales discovery meeting with you and booking time with you, they'll be in a better position to be aware of what their problems are. They'll be in a better position to understand where their challenges are and be in a better position to understand the options that are available to them to make the right decision, whether it's with you or with somebody else, to go and solve those problems. So the meeting should come at a point where they've got all of that right in their mind. Then at the meeting, you're using that as your opportunity with them to make sure that you're asking the right questions so that they are qualified and they are experiencing the kind of problems that you can help solve, and that you understand enough and they understand enough about what those problems are and how they can solve them. So the meeting phase is a really important time for you to do that. You should be asking more questions than you're giving answers really at that stage, because you want to be digging really deeply into understanding where they're at, how they got there, and where they'd like to go in solving those problems. That's irrespective of what your business is. If you're providing a service to them, whether it's a healthcare service, whether it's a business B2B type service or a consumer type service in their home, at that meeting phase, you should be asking more questions about where they're at and where they want to go than you should really be providing answers. We're sort of discovering where they're at. There'll come a point during that meeting where you'll decide if they are the right fit for you and if you can help them. You don't have to say that at that particular point in time, but as you're drawing that meeting to a conclusion and they're starting to ask you, so where do we go from here? That's where you can start to move into the onboarding phase. They've already ticked lots of boxes in their mind that you are the right person based on the quality of the questions that you've asked them and what you've teased out of them. You can then either present to them your solution verbally, which is basically a summary of what you've discussed in that meeting about how you can help them, or you can send them to a online order page if it's a kind of a core product that they can buy from you, and it's the same for everybody, and they can just go and place their order as anybody else would. Or it might involve a proposal or a quote for them to just summarize what their requirements are and give them a quote that they can agree to and accept. That's the first part of our onboarding piece. This part of the process, the education through to the meetings, through to the offers, is where I see the biggest cliff drop in expectations happen. A cliff drop of business owners who are reading the room wrong in terms of where somebody's at, or the biggest cliff drop in expectation setting in that person's mind versus the reality of what they then get when they become a client of yours. So be aware of that when they've accepted your offer through to them becoming a new client for the first time, you need to maintain that continuity of that high level of expectations that they have off the back of that experience that they've had with you until now, through into welcoming them as a new client as part of that onboarding process. This will be the biggest reason when somebody has become a client. This will be the biggest reason why they won't offer you one of those 3 R's at the end of it: a referral, a review, or repeat sales. If their first experience having paid money with you is not congruent with that experience that they had as part of that education phase or as part of that meeting and offer piece. If you've basically positioned yourself up there and they're getting an experience that's way down there, that's by and large the biggest reason why people won't ever get to the point where they're happy to give you one of those endorsements at the end of the relationship. So how we welcome new clients into the mix and continue that experience that they have is one of the crucial steps in there. Add-ons, let's talk about that next. So this is another crucial part of the onboarding piece. You've obviously asked really intelligent questions at the meeting phase, and you've got to the bottom of where somebody's at, what the problems are that they're experiencing, and all of that good stuff. You'll also recognize that there are, as you onboard them, there might be other things that come to light that didn't come up as part of that meeting phase, other things that in their minds to achieve their objective of solving the problems that they have, for one reason or another, you haven't covered it earlier in the process with them. And it's at that stage that you need to diligently pick up and ethically pick up and raise to them the fact that there are other things that you've encountered as part of that onboarding process. Because if you don't do it at this stage, their expectations of solving those problems that they have versus the reality of how you can deliver against what you've originally promised with your offer, there becomes a mismatch. So in order that we're able to get through and deliver to their expectations such that then they endorse us, we've got to make sure that we're plugging any gaps in what we've proposed to them, what we've made them an offer to do. Make sure that you close any of those gaps before you get too far down the line by making sure that you're sweeping up any other things that you need to cover for them. Obviously, if they're simple to do, it might be something that you include as part of the service. If they require a little bit of extra work, then that's something that you should probably do a revised quote for to do those services. You've obviously got to then have that conversation with them that it is going to cost a little bit more, but you'll get a far better response from them if you do that at that stage rather than leave them with an expectation in their mind that something is going to be fixed as part of solving that problem that they have and it not getting fixed towards the end of it. So add-ons, ever so important. Okay, so that's the onboarding phase. Those are the three really key parts of onboarding a new client, and it goes from a point in time towards the end of that meeting that you've had with them through to making sure that what you are delivering for them fully represents everything that they've got problems with in order to solve, in order for that to be successful. Then the next logical step is delivering everything that you've promised through the original offer, through to the add-ons, basically making sure that the things that they're having problems with are getting addressed and fully. So that delivery piece is a direct reflection of what you've agreed in the original offer, plus what you've agreed to do as part of any add-on services, making sure that all of that gets wrapped up and fully documented that you've wrapped it up and fully explained to the client how you've done so that they can see that they're getting the full value of what they were expecting and that has been delivered. So there's no ambiguity, there's no discussion around whether that's happened or not. You have fully delivered everything in your original promises and your additional promises so that they can then say, that's fantastic, I've had a great experience with you, thanks for being so upfront, thanks for being so honest with me about the problems that I had, and thanks for asking further questions about how we solve anything extra that we've got. That's all part of that delivery piece. Then the final piece is the easy bit. It's making sure that you've got some sort of automated or scheduled process that's in place relevant to that client situation where you're asking for that review, where you're asking for that referral, or you're asking to do, if you've enjoyed working together and there's something that you can further do to help them, perhaps with different problems that they have, to get some sort of repeat sale. And that's the eighth and last of the processes that are part of your delivery systems, if you like. So those are the systems and processes that I wanted to cover today, perhaps to give you food for thought about if there are any questions that you'd like to ask specifically relating to sales and marketing in your business. If you've got any questions, by all means, jump online and join the discussion with me live. I've put the link in the chat. Come and join me online if you'd like to, or just ask your questions in the chat box, and I will answer any of those. If there still aren't any questions, I do have one other topic that I'm playing around with at the moment that I'd like to share with you. So let's go from there. Would anybody like to ask a question? I'm going to play with some more tech if I don't get another question in a minute or so's time. Just paste into this window here a link to come and join me. Question from Dave. Thanks, Dave. Would you ever have a discovery call before doing your first meeting? Dave, just explain what that discovery call might cover. Put some quick notes in there just to sort of prime me so I can guide you a bit more on that. Typing. Okay, no worries. I'm going to give you some general answers just while you type, and then I'll pick up on the specifics. In terms of a discovery call before you have that first meeting, okay, so you're talking about a product demo of software. I think if you are going to do a discovery call before like the main sales meeting, I think you need to have some level of qualification before you do that. Time is our most precious commodity, and the more of that time that we give away to people that aren't relevant for our product or service, the more costly it is for us. We could be using that time for other things. So in terms of the software demo, before we do the actual sales meeting, if I was doing this, I'd be thinking about two things. The first thing I'd be thinking about is how can we qualify that person further, perhaps with some sort of quiz or questionnaire that gauges where they're at and gives us lots of different data points without it being too consuming of that person's time or energy or trust. Okay, there's some really popular software that's out there at the moment in terms of helping people to diagnose where they're at with their particular problems around something. One of the really popular ones at the moment is called Score App. Lemonade Plant, our software, also does some kind of surveying and quiz based stuff where you can derive very quickly, in return for some additional value that they get, lots of different insights about your prospects' problems, asking them some really key questions about how those problems that they have are impacting them at the moment. I'd certainly have that in place before I jumped on a demo call. That way you can get, even if then the thank you page does then link to book the demo call, when you come to do that demo call with them, you have more insights about where they're at and the problems that they're facing, so that the demo call can be more tailored to their challenges that they're facing at the moment, but B, you can also probably qualify in or qualify out those people at that stage already before you even jump on the call. You can work out where should I be guiding this person down the best possible pathway. So that's the first thing that I would do. I would do the quiz or the questionnaire type thing in return for some value that they get, where they get a detailed report with some recommendations about their steps. And like I say, there's plenty of software that's out there at the moment. Score App, Lemonade Plan also does it to a certain degree, where you can sort of channel pathways and give outcomes to them based on where they're at in terms of the problems that they have, based on some sort of quiz response. The second thing that I potentially do is in the build-up to any demos that I did with them, I do like an email series of should ask questions, not FAQs, not the frequently asked questions, but should ask questions. And the difference between a should ask question and a frequently asked question is should ask questions, especially for us in the software space, are things that we know will trip up people that don't implement properly. And so if you can start to share insights and knowledge or perhaps hurdles that need to be overcome in order to have the maximum success for them out of the back of perhaps being a customer of you on that software, is a great way to help them work out in their own mind before they book on that initial discovery call with you, that initial demo call with you, whether they are a good fit for your service. The worst thing beyond not converting somebody into a client is to convert the wrong type of person into becoming a client. And so if we can help them to do that in the run up to that meeting, perhaps only make it possible that they can book that initial meeting with you, say 2 or 3 days out, so that you can prime them with 2 or 3 little bits of content in the run up to it, is a really good way to go about filtering out some of the people who aren't a good fit for you, and give them the option to cancel that meeting as well as part of that. Hope that explains my thinking there. Should ask questions. Oh, yeah. SAQs, Dave. The should ask questions, if you go to your support team, they're all the questions or frustrations that your support or implementation team has with dealing with clients that come on board who aren't great fit. So should ask questions are definitely something where you should be pushing a little bit around, sort of probing for where they might come up, helping them to bubble up to the surface before they do, and before either A, you take them on as a client that's not a good fit for you, or B, they commit to doing something that isn't the right fit for them with imperfect knowledge. Great book to have a look at on this topic, Dave, is They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. It's all about, he doesn't call it this, but for in terms of language that you or I would use, it's all about the questions that people have when they're at the middle of the funnel, right? So they're doing their research, they're doing their diligence, they're looking at reviews, they've got questions about what might go wrong, etc. You and I would call that middle of funnel. They Ask You Answer is all about giving you ideas about the kind of content that you should be creating and the kind of content that you should be sharing with your leads and prospects who are at that middle of funnel stage. So have a look at that as well. I'll paste it in the chat afterwards, or I'll follow up with you separately afterwards. Let's have a look here. Rach, thanks for your question. Apologies if I missed that. How many warm-up touch points would you advise before offering a meeting? Oh, Rachel, that's a question. How many I think the key thing, instead of thinking about a volume of touch points, is to offer content in your warm-up nurturing that offers them a variation of different pathways that they can go down. Different content that you share in those emails, in that you'll have a 90-day email nurture sequence, right, as part of your education process. People that don't immediately buy from you will drop into a 90-day sequence or something very similar. In that content, what you want to be able to gauge is the kind of things that people are clicking on, and try and think of the content that you share with them. It might be videos, it might be blog content, etc. It might be other different resources that they can go for. Try and gauge where they're actually at in terms of their buying mindset. Are they still top of funnel and still haven't quite nailed what their problems are? So as Peter calls it, what does he call it? Diagnosis before prognosis. They understand what their symptoms are, but they don't know exactly how to fully qualify exactly what their problem is off the back of it. Top of funnel, you're helping them to do that a little bit more. You're helping them to bring together their understanding of little problems that they're starting to encounter, and helping them to almost self-diagnose by sharing insights with them in your emails and in your videos that are relevant for them to, if you like, self-diagnose that they have those particular problems. That's top of funnel. So sharing content that relates to self-diagnosis or symptoms or awareness type stuff. If they're clicking on links that do that, they're still top of funnel. They've still got some warming up to do. They still need to go through that process. So having 7 or 10 or 20 different touch points before that, it's you can't really say there's any one specific number of how many you need. Where you then are then able to say, actually, they're no longer top of funnel. They kind of understand what their problems are. They kind of understand that they need to do something about it, and they're moving more to middle of funnel stuff like how-tos or downloading your checklists, or they're looking at various different options. How do you choose X, Y, or Z type thing, if you're sharing content around that, or if you're providing content that helps them to review different options of how they solve problems that they have, and then more at that middle of funnel type scenario, that's when we know that they're getting closer to the point where we're ready to have that sales conversation with us, and helps us to avoid jumping on calls with people who aren't yet ready. We know that they're bottom of funnel when they've got a really good understanding and they've seen content of ours that explains roughly how much this is going to cost to solve. So budget isn't an issue. They understand all of the various different options that they have in terms of solving what those problems are, and they've seen different criteria for them to make an assessment of whether the service that we have is going to solve the problems that they have and give value to them. That's bottom of funnel stuff. So what I'd say to you, instead of thinking about touch points, think about scoring those leads that are clicking on more of our middle of funnel links or starting to click on our more bottom of funnel links. That's when they're probably readier for that sales conversation, if that makes sense. Just let me know if it does. Yeah, there we go. Prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. I knew I'd quoted it wrong. Yeah, that's absolutely spot on. Peter Thompson talks about that all the time. Rob, you've got a question as well. Currently toying with the idea of putting my phone number back onto key pages for credibility and reassurance. I took it off a few years back because of quality or volume. Any thoughts? Rob, I've got 3 websites, as you know. 2 of them have phone numbers on there. 1 doesn't as yet. I think putting a phone number on there, especially a phone number that would come through to you, so either a local number or a mobile number, is a really positive trust factor. A really positive trust factor. It means that they have that reassurance in their mind about, they know that there's somebody available there. They know that you're likely to be able to interact with them one-to-one. They know that it's not just going to be some sort of email or support case type interaction that they have with you. I think it's a really credible trust factor to have one of those on your site. Although I can also see the argument, especially in solo businesses where it's just you that's running it, where you don't have like a support line or a call handling service that can manage that for you. I can totally see why you'd think about not having something like that on there. So there's two sides to the argument. Now let's take that first one, a scenario where you have the phone number on your website, but you don't necessarily want to take every call that you receive. Under that circumstance, I don't think it's especially if they know that they're dealing with one person. Your branding is always about you, right? I know that from seeing your website. So let's say it's a mobile number, not necessarily your mobile number. It could be another mobile number that you've paid for, perhaps through Twilio or your software service that is a virtual mobile number that you've put on your website, or a virtual landline number that you've put on your website where people can interact with you. But if your branding is all about how they're going to be working with you specifically and you as a one-person business, I think people are relatively understanding that if you don't answer the phone, if you don't answer the phone call, answer the phone every time it rings, people get that we're busy and that we're dealing with other clients, or that we have our phone on silent, or that we're working on focus stuff. I think as long as you respond, obviously, to valid calls, not the spam calls, then I don't think that's particularly a bad thing. You don't have to answer every call that comes into your business in order for it to feel like it's great customer service and responsive customer service. So from my perspective, I think there's a lot of value that's weighted around having that phone number on your website, and for people to feel like they can contact you via it. You don't necessarily have to answer it. The other thing as well, not to make this a pitch for Lemonade Plan again, but there are softwares out there like Lemonade Plan where when somebody phones you, if you miss that call, you can have an automated interaction with them. It's called missed call text back, and you can, especially if it's come in via a mobile number, you can automatically text them back to say, look, sorry, I missed your call. If there's something specifically that you're looking for or that you had a question about, just text me back and I'll respond to you as soon as I can. That way, although you haven't taken that call or set aside time, unplanned time to answer it, at least they're getting a response from you, and at least you know that you have received their call and that you are onto it in terms of addressing that. The fact that you're automating that response doesn't really make much difference. At least they're being heard, and at least you're responding to them. I hope that helps. That's I wouldn't have said that probably even 3 or 4 years ago. I wouldn't have said that. I would have said, take the mobile number, take your phone number off your website, because your time is too precious to be dealing with ad hoc calls that are coming in. There are other ways for them to get hold of you. But I think maybe it's the state of sort of where we are now with our interactions with people, where we are coming out of lockdown and all of that nonsense. I think it's ever so important in this day and age that we build that trust factor. I see your comment. Makes sense. We'll probably add the 0114 number with the missed call text back set up and a big Made in Sheffield icon on the website. Yeah, that's not going to go down well in West or North Yorkshire, Rob. But for those who value the Made in Sheffield brand, I think it speaks to their problems. No, I think it's a good thing to do. So if you are doing the missed call text back, you obviously can't do it from a 0114 number. You'd need to have both the Sheffield number on there and your mobile number. I hope you get that set up separately. We can get those numbers on there. So that's Rob's, that's Rachel's, and that's Dave's questions. Anybody else got any questions on here before I riff on another little idea that I've got for you and try and use some additional tech for something? Good man. Right, what I'm going to do now, just while I'm waiting for... By all means, if you do have questions, bob them into the chat. But I'm keen to play around with some technology and do some drawing for you. Right, let's see here. Share screen. Didn't go right first time. I forgot to share my screen with the LinkedIn Live. Here we go. Window. Share screen there. Share. Right, you should be able to see my screen again. If we now do this little bit, I think you should be able to see my iPad. Now, unfortunately, I can't now see your questions, so I don't know whether this is going right or not. So hopefully the audio version of this will be sufficient if you can't see what's going on here. Right, an idea that I'm playing around with at the moment, and it's specifically around Soloprenyear, which is it's a training program for solopreneur, as in solo business owners who, for one reason or another, aren't working with a marketing service. You might have, if you're in that bracket, you might have either worked with somebody in the past that provides marketing services, and for whatever reason, whether it's a experience issue or whether it's a financial issue or what have you, you've decided to not continue to work with that marketing agency any longer. Or you're like me, you're like me, and you are independently managing all the different components of how your business runs. You're a good kind of multi-skilled person that if you can do things yourself, you'll try and do things yourself. And the way that these groups split is that roughly 27% of small businesses, gosh, that looks horrible, doesn't it? Roughly 27% of small businesses will have marketing support who's helping them, paid marketing support on a retainer, outsourced, who are doing things for them, which means that there's a whole chunk of 73% of small businesses who are doing everything that they do in-house. That's not just small businesses that have a team, that maybe have somebody that's in a marketing function. That also includes solo business owners who, under normal circumstances, have come into running their business, bearing in mind that about 4/5 of the economy is based on service business, and about 5 million businesses within the economy are what we describe as micro businesses, businesses of between 1 and 9 people. And of that grouping, the vast majority of those businesses are 1 or 2 person businesses. And if 83% of the economy is service-based businesses, that means that there's a lot of experts that are out there in the economy doing their thing who don't have any marketing skills or background or marketing operations experience, don't have any sales operations experience in order to run their business. So in other words, there's a lot of this 73% who don't have formal marketing experience to bring into their business, to run their business effectively. They got into business because of an expertise that they want to get paid for. People value that expertise. They want to do more of it. They want to work with their clients. What they don't necessarily really want to be doing is working on the sales and marketing. And yet, in order for them to be successful, in order for that group to be successful, they need to learn these skills. That's where Soloprenyear came from. I think there are, broadly speaking, 3 different categories of business owners. There's this grouping here, the 27%, who are dependent on something. They are reliant on a service for them to be able to run their business. Those people that are dependent on that service not only need to make enough money to cover their own costs and their own salary or dividend expectations, but they also need to generate enough revenue in their business that they can continue that dependency on that third party, that they can continue to pay that marketing service or that operations service that's doing these kind of things for them. The idea that I'm sort of riffing around with in my head at the moment, I know there's a whole section of the economy, a small section at that, might be, I don't know what it is, 4 or 5% of business owners who are like me, who will always try and do everything that relates to their business themselves, and will diligently have a go at things, plan things, and make stuff happen. I'm intrigued by this grouping here. The other, whatever it is, 65, 70% of businesses in the economy. I'm really intrigued at the moment to learn who they are, how they deal with the problems that they have, because at some stage they must be having to plan these activities in and do these activities in order to have the level of success that they wanted to get when they started their business. So this is just, I don't have any answers on this at the minute. This is just a kind of an idea that I'm riffing around with a little bit at the moment. And I'd just like to sort of get your feedback on where are these people? How do they plan for the activities that they need to do in order to run a successful business? And what kind of services are they looking for in order for them to build an understanding of the kind of things that they should be doing? Wanted to share that with you today just in case you had any feedback on that. Also wanted to play around with the tech and see if I could get my iPad working with the screen, which was a mixed success. The live stream catch up. Just while I'm doing that, Moira's got a question on there. What do you think about using a virtual PA? Moira, that grouping is that middle group. So we've got the dependents, the 27% of the economy. We've got what I describe the independents, people like me who will, a good generalist who will have a go at everything. And then we've got the people in the middle who are what I would describe as maybe interdependent, where they, in order to run their business, they need to have support to do the different things that they need to achieve within their business. In terms of a virtual PA, I think that's probably the most valuable investment that you can make in order to free up your own time, especially a PA that has a broad set of skills that you can hand things over to. You maybe start the stuff, you maybe give the outline of things, the structure for the blog post, for example, or the outreach piece that you want to do to contacts that you haven't been in contact with for a while on LinkedIn. You give them the structure and you give them the list of the things that need to be done, and you take yourself out of that equation, because that's not a valuable use of your time then, and give that to a virtual PA. I think associates like that are probably the model that our solo business economy is going in. Almost like the paid by activity piece of the jigsaw, having virtual PAs or associate experts that can help you with different bits and pieces. Rob, if he's still on the call, he's helping me with my podcast at the moment. I was utterly clueless before I came into it. He's got great expertise in that realm about how to think about your content, how to plan your content, how to then make sure that you're saying the right thing on each of the episodes, make sure it's edited professionally, and then promoted professionally outside of that. All of those 4 stages of doing a podcast, I'd sort of got an idea that all of them needed to be part of the mix. But until I worked with Rob as a expert in that space, as a paid for expert for a particular function of my business, I wouldn't have known where to start. So I think the virtual PA, the associate expert model, is something that the people that are in that interdependent grouping, if you like, where you are, you can't achieve everything that you want to in your business on your own, but you know that you need to do something in order to achieve that success. I think that's an important part of the mix. One thing that I'm playing around with Soloprenyear is helping people to plan, specifically around sales and marketing, what that planned activity for the month, the quarter and the year might look like. And then also, one of the things that's on my mind is not everybody is like me. Not everybody will independently have a go at all of this kind of stuff. How can then Soloprenyear also give like the checklist outputs that come from those plans that you can give to the virtual PA, that you can give to the specific subject matter expert that uses their language that they understand, so they know the outcomes that you want to achieve, and position you as somebody that knows how to hire to get those services done properly. That's, I think, the missing piece of the jigsaw in most business coaching, in most marketing training content that's out there. Most marketing training, which is what Soloprenyear is all about, will generally give you training on a particular topic and then leave it up to you. It's on you to find the software, it's on you to implement the software, it's on you to make a success of it. I think that misses 2 things. It misses the software that people need, so the training will combine with the software. But then the third part of the jigsaw, so as well as the understanding and the software, I think people also need to have that grasp of how they go and hire for that help and make sure that the results that come back from hiring that help fully meet the brief of what's required. And I think that's another factor that's missing from most businesses who are trying to manage their activities under their own steam. Rob, you're going just after commenting that I think you just wanted to draw something. Yes, I probably did. I'm playing around with all of these different technologies. My first LinkedIn Live, my first go at sharing my iPad screen. It's probably not my last LinkedIn Live, but it might be my last go at sharing my iPad screen. It is my summary from today. Moira, I hope that helped in terms of answering that question. I'll pick up with you separately on it. Cool. Looking good, folks. We've gone 50 minutes. We've had some good questions. I've shared some insights. I'm going to leave it maybe a minute or so just to see if there are any other questions. But if not, we'll wrap up there. Any more for any more? I think I could probably write a checklist or a blog on how to do or not do a LinkedIn Live quite a few things on this. Most notably, when I started, make sure you turn the audio off on the live, otherwise 10 seconds later you hear what you've just said, which is really off-putting. Worked well though. Nigel, if you're still on, thanks for the nudge to start one of these. This is step 10 out of the 10 that came out of the Power Hour with Nigel Cliff in terms of making more effective use of LinkedIn. And I can't endorse the advice that he gave me. I can't speak any more highly of booking a Power Hour with Nigel. It's been really valuable. I know he's commented on here, so if you're hearing me say that, look in the comments and you can see Nigel's comment in there. The Power Hour that I had with Nigel back in December last year was probably my most precious hour of coaching that I received in my business in all of 2023. It was so valuable. Out of just 1 hour, I got a list of 10 key areas that I could improve. I thought I was doing it all right on LinkedIn. Turns out I really wasn't. And I got a list of 10 things that I could put right and improve on my LinkedIn profile and my LinkedIn activities and engagement. And that's really been powerful and helpful. So, Nigel, by all means, post into the comments how people can get in contact with you if they want to do the same. It's been really valuable to me. And I'll probably do more of these LinkedIn lives, and I'll certainly apply more of what I learned from you in sharing on LinkedIn. I don't think there were any other questions. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up there. It's been really good to catch up with some people that I've not seen for a while. Other people who are always there in my corner supporting me. So thank you. And we'll try and do more with this in future.